Good evening, good day, and welcome to Connection Cafe. Connection Cafe was MoreYoga's way of getting us all together through the first lockdown in March 2020. And before I go further, I'm Yvonne O'Garro, and I'm one of the teachers with MoreYoga. And with the unfortunate circumstances of George Floyd being killed last summer, I was asked to hold space for yogis of color. And I decided to come up with a way to amplify our voices, to celebrate our journeys, and so people could learn more about us as yogis of color. So every fortnight, for the past over a year now, I've had the pleasure of hearing so many different yogi journeys. And tonight we have the pleasure of welcoming Zakiya Bishton. Zakiya is the founder of Mindwalk Yoga. And over to you, Zakiya. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you this evening?
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm very well. And thank you so much for having me. I've really loved watching your yoga journeys in the Connection Cafe over the past few months. And before I introduce myself, I just want to say a big thank you to you because you're one of the founding teachers of Mindwalk Yoga. So, I really appreciate all of your support and joining Mindwalk Yoga. So thank you. So I'm Zakiya, I'm the founder of Mindwalk Yoga, and we are a social enterprise, and we are completely virtual online yoga studio, I should say, and we run daily classes in a really wide range of styles. We've also founded a Black Women's Wellness Collective, and we do monthly online retreats. My personal background is that I've been teaching yoga for 10 years, and I focus now on yoga therapy for mental wellness, specifically looking at anxiety and trauma. So we do longer courses there. And we have a unique proposition in that we are completely run by Black women. And that's really our focus in terms of getting more Black women to embrace and feel empowered to do yoga.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. Thank you. So you've shared about Mindwalk, but this is about you as an individual. But obviously, the Mindwalk is probably naturally going to come into the journey. But this is to get to know your journey almost before Mindwalk. So yeah, it's going to be exciting, I'm sure. So before we delve into the usual questions, so if you're tuning in for the first time, I asked the same 10 questions of the yogis, but obviously the answers are so beautifully different. So they're all past interviews are all up there on YouTube, but tonight obviously we're with Zakiya. So I always like to ask yogis how they introduce themselves. So how do you introduce yourself if you met somebody in a lift for the first time? Do you say you're a yoga teacher first? How do you describe yourself? Hi, I'm Zakiya, and what do you say?
Do you know what? It changes, I think, every time. I think it took me a while to say I'm the founder of Mindwalk Yoga. I was a bit like, I'm a yoga teacher. I do yoga therapy for anxiety, and then like slowly I was like, okay, yeah, I'm the founder of Mindwalk Yoga, and so I think that's probably how I introduce myself now. But I think it took me a little while to kind of get there.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's almost like taking on your new identity or your new role. You know, I shedded a role. I was like a HR business partner for many years. So I was like part-time yoga, part-time HR. But then it's like, no, I don't have to say that bit anymore. Anyway, no more about me. So you ready for the yoga journeys questions?
Yes.
Okay, first one. Honoring our ancestors, please share your family lineage.
So my heritage is so I'm mixed heritage. My mom was born in Jamaica, in a small town called Lucy. It's on the north coast, really beautiful place. And she came to the UK when she was 15. She was part of the Windrush generation. My grandparents came a few years before her, and then sent for all of my aunties and uncles. And my mom came to Birmingham, and my mom met my dad, who's a Brummie, in Birmingham many years later, and they started a family. So that's my heritage.
Amazing. Have you been back to Jamaica often?
Lots. We went quite a few times when I was growing up, and then my parents bought a beach house there.
Oh, wonderful.
I was like a teenager, so then we ended up. So then basically they had this ideal that they would spend half of their time there and here. But then it didn't quite work out. They spent a decade doing that, but in the end they sold the house. But we did have a good decade where we got to go to the beach house.
Nice. Very nice sort of teenage years. Amazing. Okay, so that's your lineage. Thank you for sharing. So can you cast your mind back to when, and with whom was your first yoga class?
So my first yoga class, like as in a proper class in a space, was at university.
Okay.
So I went to university. I left Birmingham when I was 18, went to Westminster University to study contemporary media practice. A class that was being run by another student, a white guy. He was a student. He wasn't a qualified teacher.
Okay.
His mum was a yoga teacher. He was quite hippie and spiritual. He had like long hair, kind of a typical yogi child kind of thing. So he was just like, he started these classes. He was doing them for free. And before that, I had bought a yoga book when I was like 17. And so I was just really interested in yoga. I don't know why, because no one was really doing it in Birmingham, but so I knew some of the postures because I was practicing at home. But that was the first time that I was in a class with other people doing it. And also because he was so spiritual, he used to do chanting. At the time I have no idea what's going on, but I was just going with the flow. Just kind of, and he used to do like dances and just like all like spiritual chanting and practices.
What year was this, Zakiya?
So I was 18, so I'm 37 now. I can't do the math, but it was a long time ago.
A long time ago. So you say it was almost in a book that drew you to yoga. What made you decide to buy a yoga book? Do you remember the book? Do you still have it?
I don't still have it, but I remember the book. It was basically like a yoga asana book is how I could describe it. Because the thing that drew me to it was the images looked very like gymnastics. And I was really into like sports and gymnastics, all that kind of physical thing. So that's what really drew me in. I had no idea really what yoga was. I didn't know that it didn't have anything in there about yogic philosophy or even breathing or anything. It was very much like try and do this pose. So I was trying to do headstand and all these like poses at home. So that was my perception of what yoga was. But then I went to his classes and I was like, oh, okay, because we were doing loads of other stuff and he was talking about yogic philosophy and his kind of explanations were quite limited because he was quite young, but it did lead me to that there's more to this than what I thought.
Excellent. Okay. And so you kept on all through uni, you kept going to his classes?
Yeah, I kept going to his classes, and then because I couldn't afford to do anything else other than stuff that was free. And then after I left uni and I got my first job, it was a while before I had enough money to kind of, and I suppose enough kind of confidence to kind of venture out into a studio. But then I ended up doing hot yoga.
Okay.
And I think it was the gymnastics kind of style.
Yeah. Because it was a bit more faster flowing. So I think it's about, let's call it 20 years ago, you started the classes. Okay. So how long between leaving uni and then you deciding, when did you realize you wanted to teach yoga? When did that light bulb come on?
It happened quite soon, actually. I was probably because I was religiously going to. I started religiously going to Bikram yoga for all of its good and bad point.
Yeah. Say no more. Yeah.
And that kind of so basically, when I was kind of going to yoga like almost every day, I thought I want to study to be a teacher so I can expand my knowledge. More so that part than actually be a teacher.
Right. Yeah.
So because I didn't want to train to be a Bikram yoga teacher, I wanted to do like more of a kind of well-rounded teacher training course because I could see the limitations of like the hot yoga, very physical. So I did, I mean, I wanted to do that, but I was probably in my early 20s.
Excellent. Okay. So when, where, and with whom was your first teacher training?
So I ventured into teacher training, and I had to try and remember the date of this, but I've actually had to write it down somewhere. I was just like,
It's okay,
when
don't
was
worry.
it? It was like 2009. I
Wow.
started.
Wow. That's a
It was a
long time ago.
It was a 2.5-year diploma. So, and that was with the British Wheel of Yoga, and it was a teacher called Leslie Isaacson, who was
Okay.
who I'd never been taught by, but I went to a few intro sessions with her, like, this is going to be the course, this is what it's going to be about. So I felt like, yeah, you know, she was a really interesting woman, and the thing that I suppose drew me to her, she had a lot of experience. She'd been teaching for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I'm going to learn a lot from her, because the teachers that I had previously had all been very hadn't been teaching for that long, and been much more into the kind of physical side of it. So I decided to do it, and I never really thought about, oh God, I've actually got to teach at some point. I just kind of started doing it. But then actually with this course, you became a trainee teacher straight away, and they encouraged you to start a class.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I went from being like, yeah, I want to learn more about yoga, to actually I was teaching like teaching community classes at the place I was working at.
Okay. So what were you working as while you were doing your teacher training?
So I was working in TV. I was working as a basically like because I've kind of worked as a creative alongside yoga teaching pretty much the whole time. So I was working TV as an assistant producer. So I've always had quite a demanding job. So yoga was always, it was, as you were just saying, of kind of juggling the two and kind of trying to find a way to balance it. But yes, that was my job.
Did you get a credit on anything that we would recognize in your TV career?
So I've worked on a lot of live TV.
Okay.
So like Sunday brunch on Channel 4, I did work.
Okay.
That was actually a bit later on. The early years weren't so good. But
wow, you're past those early years now. Okay. So it was 2.5-year training course with British Wheel. Okay. Can you remember? I know it was 2009, but can you remember A, how many people were on the training, and B, how many people of color were on the training?
So I do actually remember this much more than any of the dates, because it was only myself and another woman who was Indian heritage, British born, but Indian heritage. And we were a group of about 18, and everyone else was white, and there was one man.
Okay. So one man. Okay.
One man.
Wow. In 2009. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Unsurprisingly, those numbers, the balance of numbers of students of color have been low through all the interviews thus far. We're hoping that, you know, with the rise of radical darshan, you know, 4 women of color running a 300-hour TT, that starts to galvanize the activity, to show that, to your point, the representation, we're here, you know, we are the other side as well. So be interested to see if the numbers start to change, you know, going forward. So now we're going to move on to the wellness industry, the highs and the lows. So when you hear highs and lows of the wellness industry, what comes to mind for you? I ask you to start with any lows, and then if there are any highs. And that is, you know, it's your experience, so you might not have any lows, you might not have any highs. What does it mean to you when you hear wellness industry, highs and lows?
So yeah, starting with the lows. I mean, I suppose the most glaring one is really just the exclusivity of it, and the exclusivity in many ways, in that, yes, it's very white dominated, but it's also like very middle class, upper middle class, very expensive. And it can feel very unattainable. And I know it did for me when I was leaving university. And like, you know, broke and wanting to do something good for myself, and also very high anxiety levels. I mean, I've had very high anxiety levels, I realized, probably forever, which is probably why I went to yoga when I was so young. And like, and it was just like, I just don't feel, I just didn't feel comfortable there. And also I didn't have the money to buy like nice clothes for yoga or anything like that. And I remember the first time I invested in like a yoga outfit for like hot yoga, and I thought it was just like, and it was just like the best thing ever. But that was attainable for me because I managed to get a job, and I invest a lot of money in my membership, but that, you know, that's just so unattainable. So that for me is like the big barrier to entry, like not seeing people who look like you and not being able to afford it, because then it's like, I just don't feel like I belong. And
is that why you, if you bring in mind walk, is that why you have so many tiers and so many options?
Yeah, because it's just like, you know, having that kind of because we're not all in the same, we don't all earn the same, and we don't all have the same access.
No way, no, especially after the pandemic, even before the pandemic, but now, come on.
It's just like, we just and also just because one month you're earning, the next month you might not be, because, you know, we're that's the way life is, and that's the way life has been for many people for a long time. But then I think many more of us have experienced that, and I certainly have during the pandemic of just financial situation. So I just think having that option to pay it forward down to pay a really small amount is really important. And then even we have the bursary option, but we've capped it at like 20% of memberships, because then the pay it forward people provide
pay for the bursaries. Okay. Excellent.
So that's kind of definitely where that was born from, and just like making sure that it's financially sustainable, because I feel like going to one class is great, but then if you don't feel like it, you know, it can be quite depressing if you think, I can't keep this up because
exactly. Where am I gonna get the money for the next class? And then you're not able to have like a regular practice in community, you know. Okay, so those were the lows. Do you have any highs?
So the highs are, I think the highs for me right now, I think are really a recognition of the need for inclusive spaces. And a couple of like, one of the highlights for me, even before the pandemic, was the London Buddhist Centre in Bethnal Green.
Right, yes,
I used to live in Bethnal Green, and I used to go there because they do donation-based meditations at lunchtime. Right. So I could always afford to go to the Buddhist Centre.
Yes.
And that was like, and because of that, like whenever I could give, I did give. But that specific high is because not only are they, so they have a people of colour place on their website where where it's just made for people of colour. They do retreats. And I go there, well, I haven't been there for a while, but I used to, before the pandemic, and they have very diverse groups going to documentation. So that is a real high, that there is a recognition of that need for how do we create inclusive spaces. And then even down to things like Dr. Gail Parker's book, and just that recognition of, you know, yoga is a tool that is there to be, you know, for us to understand and use to help manage racial trauma.
Definitely.
So just that as well, I think that opening up is really eye-opening and really wonderful. So those are kind of highs of like how the wellness sector is kind of starting to change.
Definitely. Okay, so when I started this, the question was what got you through lockdown, and I need to change it to what got you through each of the lockdowns, and were they different? So first lockdown, March 2020, I forget the exact dates of them, but 3 lockdowns. How did you get through each of them, and were they different?
So I got through each lockdown very differently. because the first lockdown was started on the 23rd of March. And I know that because it's the day that I did my first online Zoom class.
Oh, wow.
So I did my first one on the first day of the lockdown.
Okay.
And so I think what got the kind of thread that got me through everything was teaching. I felt like I hadn't, like, none of us knew what was going on, but I felt like being in that virtual community space and really got me through, like talking to people, because I've done more yoga practice in lockdown than I ever have done. like I'm doing classes every day and all trying stuff, and so that being in community with people that I would have never met has just enriched my life and just kind of made me open my eyes to so many different styles. And so that definitely got me through teaching and practice and opening doors to new things. But in terms of like the 3 different lockdowns, I think I got better with each one. I think the first one, perhaps I had too many glasses of wine on too many occasions.
I think that happened to everybody. You know, everybody was in the fridge the first lockdown, every 2 minutes. You needed something to adjust, because it's like, how on earth have we gone to this alternate universe of being told we can only go out for 1 hour a day? It was weird.
It was weird. I mean, all the wine was organic, and I was trying my best, but I was like, wine and dark chocolate did become my best friend. as well as lots of yoga. But then the second one, I was like, okay, not doing that again. And learn from that mistake. And then I just started running more, because I've always done running. I've always done running.
Excellent.
So I started running more. And then the last lockdown, I ran every day of the lockdown.
Oh, okay, excellent. So have you kept that up, or is it stopped now? Okay.
I also got very tired, and then I thought I need to stop this. But it did kind of get me through, because I was journaling. And that's another thing, actually, that I should mention. In the second lockdown, I read a book, The 12 Steps of Creative Recovery.
Okay.
And because I was feeling a bit stuck personally. Actually, it was kind of just before we went into the lockdown and then kind of through it. And part of that process is to journal 3 pages a day.
Oh, okay.
So I started journaling, and then I've carried on journaling as well.
Excellent. So that's something new you picked up through the lockdown.
Yeah.
And is that really helpful for you? If you miss a day, do you notice it and you can tell the difference? That's excellent. Okay. Did they say why it's got to be 3 pages? Because that sounds a lot. Well, it depends how big your book is, I suppose.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And that's just because I've realized that when you do 3 pages, you moan for about 1.5 pages. And then you finally start saying something that you actually didn't realize you needed to get out.
Okay, excellent.
And you kind of work through, like, why is that a problem for me? How can I let it go? But I realized that when I didn't journal for 3 days, I would just moan, like, oh, I'm moaning. But when I did, it was like, oh, okay, I'm actually stressed about this.
So when you're doing it regularly, you start to see the benefit. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, people are picking up new found things during lockdown, so yeah, if it helps you, it's all great. Okay, so last summer, may he rest in peace, George Floyd was killed, and the world had to sit up basically and understand that racism is real. And everybody dealt with that in so many different ways. Some, still found it very uncomfortable, etc., etc. There was a call to arms at the time to diversify your feed on social media. Can you recall getting additional followers? And did you get any approaches from studios who started to get that prick of conscience to again, diversified their teams, because that was something that was coming up as well. To your point about the spaces not being inclusive, that was another point. So do you remember any change to your followers in the summer?
So I didn't really get much of a change to my followers, but probably because Mind Walk Yoga was so new.
Right.
And I think my personal Instagram profile was probably because I wasn't doing very much before I started Mind Walk Yoga in terms of talking about yoga and everything. But the one thing I did find with everything that happened after George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests and everything, was that I was approached a lot by white-owned organisations because they wanted to feature Mind Walk Yoga, so they were doing a lot more features about Black-owned businesses.
Yes.
And so they were approaching, and so I got approached by, so I was featured in a lot of things. They were just sending me messages on LinkedIn. I think they were just trying to find images of Black people that were doing
Google search Black yoga teacher.
And then just send,
Black business.
But
amplifying the voices. Let's see. It's one hand, it's great. Some of it was performative, but from some of those connections, have they continued?
So one of them has become really, really fruitful. So one of them was with We Make Change, and it's a social enterprise that they support other social enterprises with skilled volunteers from all around the world. So so the founder of that approached me very early on. He got me a really amazing skilled group of people to help with research and loads of other stuff. And so we kept the relationship going. And just the other week we did a hack day. So his social enterprise has now grown and has corporate clients, and they organize hack days where they get teams of people from corporates to donate their time or give their time to a social enterprise for a day with a challenge. This is what I need. This is what Mind Walk Yoga needs. People with all these different amazing skills are giving you kind of 8 hours of their day, which is basically what they did for the social media campaign that's just launched today for Mind Walk Yoga. So they
is that part of the hack?
Yeah, so they came up with loads of ideas.
Excellent.
And what's really amazing about them is that they also have diverse volunteers. So it's a diverse. So I had an amazing woman who was she was South Asian heritage, and she knew a lot about yoga, and also she'd worked with loads of different organizations that were supporting Black women, South Asian women.
Amazing.
So I was just this is perfect. And also the social enterprises that were there that day, they were all Black women as well that were being supported. So I feel they really stuck by.
That's good. Yeah. Wasn't just a black square. They have kept going, they've kept that amplification, good allies. Okay, well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. And also that it's right up to date and helping you further your path and the offering from Mind Yoga. That's amazing to hear. Well done you. So what's the rest of this year looking like for you? So, what you got coming up with Mind Walk, what you got coming up with personally, because we know you like to study and we know you're very diligent. So share what's coming up.
So I suppose personally, one of the big highlights. So one thing I'm really interested in is really kind of developing my understanding of how can we use yoga as a tool to heal and manage racial trauma. And so I've been connecting with different organizations that are looking at this, and one of them is BLAM UK, and I went on there. So they do a 4-week yoga, it's not yoga, but it's a racial wellness course.
Right.
And I went on the course and I did some workshops for them looking at imposter syndrome and looking at some other things. And so one of the things I'm going to be doing with them is I'm going to be doing a module on their racial wellness course, all about basically mind, body and breath practices. That's a really kind of personal highlight because it's something that I'm really really interested in and just feel like it needs. But it's yoga has so many benefits that really help.
When does that start? That course?
So that course starts in October, and it's a free course. It's a free course for anyone to sign up. So It's run by Blam, and it's run by a really amazing psychologist who has basically, kind of devised the course called TAVI. And they're funded to do that, and they run them every month. So it's free for anyone to sign up. And I highly recommend it as well. It was like a community, a really wonderful community as well, because you kind of get to talk to people who have had similar experiences to you. So that's kind of big personal highlight. And then Mindwalk Yoga stuff. So we're just continuing to, but we're basically in a phase of we want to grow, we want to reach people. So we're doing a lot of stuff this summer to try and outreach to people who have maybe never done yoga before, never thought it was for them. So, and we're doing that through social media, and we're doing that through kind of reaching out to influencers and people who have similar audiences to us. So we've got through kind of partnerships coming up. So we've got one with Dope Black Moms and also Inside Out Wellbeing, and that's another.
What's that called? Inside Out
Wellbeing.
Oh, okay.
They kind of specialize in like creative tools for mental health. So, and then we've also got. I'm also starting an 8-week yoga therapy for anxiety course. So that's something that I've developed over the lockdown period as well, and I've run 4 courses so far. So this will be the 5th one.
Wonderful.
And that's starting in September. So yeah, I think that's all. The last thing that we're doing.
So many things.
Well, the last thing that I should probably say I'm really excited about is in discussions with a London health authority about socially prescribed yoga.
Amazing! Wow! Wow!
I'm really but at the moment it is prescribed in certain boroughs, and it very much depends on the NHS Foundation and what resources.
Yes.
But there is one at the moment who are really interested in looking at that, and they've already referred someone to Mindwalk Yoga, but we're going to look at how we could do it on a kind of larger scale.
Brilliant. Well done, you. Well done. Very inspiring, all the passion that you put into Mindwalk and all that you do. So thank you so very much. So if you're tuning in and you have a question for Zakiya, please do contact her via email or Instagram, and she's going to give you the links now. So where can people find you, Zakiya, if they have a question?
So yeah, if you send any questions to @Mindwalk Yoga on Instagram, so I manage that account, so I will get back to you ASAP. And then also, if you've got any other kind of queries about Mindwalk Yoga, you can email at Zakiya@mindwalkyoga.org as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. Any final words? Any final thoughts? Anything you want to revisit? Anything you forgot to share? Now's your chance.
No, I think it's just thank you for inviting me, and it's been really lovely to talk to you, Yvonne.
No, it's been nice to hear the journey, see how it all weaved together. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I should have said before I ended, the next yogi of color is Amina Ufoma. She's an amazing teacher with MoreYoga, very creative, dance-led, lots of creativity. So I'm looking forward to meeting Amina on the 9th of August. So tune in, watching out for Amina. And then the last of the series is on the 21st of August, and that will be with Natasha. Known as Coco Red. And yeah, that will be the end of the series for now. But we're not there yet, so tune in on the 9th. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.